Hello, and welcome to the Wine Educate podcast. I'm your host, Joanne Close. This is episode 102. The German wine laws are complex and different than the other laws we see in the European Union. So I thought it would be important to give a little bit of history and background as to how Germany got to where it is today with its wine laws. The overall history of wine in Germany is a lot more than what I'm covering today. I try to make these podcasts like 10, maybe 15 minutes. We would be here for a couple hours if we were going to do a deep dive into the full history of German wine. But the thing that I want to really focus on today is this 1971 German wine law, because this is still in place and had a huge impact on Germany, the German growers, and the overall perception of the wine that is made there. Germany is a complex place. Very early on, people mapped out these winemaking areas. They recognized that there were certain winemaking regions that just made better wine. I like the story that they would look up into the mountains and hills that are on the riverbanks and see which patches of land the snow melted first. And that's where they decided they would plant the grapes. Makes sense because those would be the warmest sites, the sites with the best aspect and better opportunity to ripen the grapes. There's many gorgeous maps. So you can see how these sites were mapped out and recognized. The map that you might have seen, and certainly I have this sucker framed in my entry hallway, is the 1868 vineyard map showing the Saar and Mosel sections along the Mosel River and mapping out those specific sites. This was created by the Prussian government essentially as a tax map because they mapped out the sites and decided that the better sites would be taxed. So this is clear evidence that vineyard quality and terroir were already understood and recognized. Germany was facing major disruption in the early 1900s. A little thing called phylloxera was devastating the vineyards. 2 world wars, there was economic hardships. And to top it all off, there was some fraud going on. So they decided they really needed to tighten up the regulations. They introduced a law in 1930, and this was the beginning of trying to classify, trying to tighten up the rules. And it was a start, right? You've got to start somewhere. However, it really felt incomplete, and it was. So there was a need to tighten it up even further. And this is where the 1971 wine classification came into play. These things always have good intentions behind it, or at least I like to think they do. This was a law that was supposed to help Germany, help these wine regions, help the growers. In doing this, they decided to focus on ripeness as a clear indicator of quality. Now, Germany is a cool wine growing region. Many years, it is a challenge to ripen. Now, with a bit of climate change, this is becoming less of a challenge. But certainly back in 1971, it was a challenge. So they used ripeness as an indicator of quality and formed the laws around that. My WSET students recognize this quality chart we have here. We introduced the different categories in the Pradikatswein system, Kabinett, Spatlese, Auslese, and so on and so forth. And as we know from our studies, the more sugar the must has before fermentation indicates the hierarchy of their classification system. Now, if you want more detail on this, I did a podcast on it already, episode 64. So you can go back and listen to that. And I explain these in detail. But essentially, when it came to really deciding what was important in the classification, Germany really prioritized ripeness over terroir. Now, this really differs from what's happening in, say, France or Italy, where the location is really important and protected and recognized as producing superior wines. This is not the case with what this law did. Indeed, they created these wine regions called Grosslagen that were huge. it obliterated these smaller regions. And it means that many wines from different quality levels are now sharing the same label. This is quite shocking to me. So before 1971, there were about 30,000 named vineyard sites, and the law reduced this to about 2,600 sites, which is remarkable to me. Many historic vineyard sites were merged and lumped under single names. This is also confusing and somewhat damaging to some of these smaller vineyard sites. They had similar names to these much larger sites. So this made it very confusing to the buyer. As you can imagine, there was some economic consequences to this law change because it really weakened the link between vineyard, site, and quality. It made the labels confusing. German wine lost its prestige in export markets. Needless to say, this was annoying to many producers, having their specific vineyard sites obliterated and wiped off the map, as it were. So there has been pushback. Then a very important role of the VDP. So this is an independent group of producers here in Germany, been around for a while. They did not like this law and were pushing back on it. So something happened. In 2021, there was an amendment to this law. Oh, wonderful, good. To help bring back this hierarchy of the regional wine, village wine, and single vineyard wine. So this is good news. I think there's still work to be done, but it shows that the pendulum is swinging back in the opposite direction and that these beautiful, special terroirs of Germany are getting the recognition that they very clearly deserve. The VDP had a big hand in making this change, and this is a really interesting organization. For my final episode on German wine, I think we need to close it out with what the VDP is and their rules, because you do need to know this, my level 3 students, and I do see this show up on essay questions. So that's what's happening next week. We're going to go into detail on this topic. All right, friends, if you're not already signed up for the good old newsletter, please do so. Lots of good quizzes and essay questions there. And also, it's just how I communicate with you, right? It's how we stay in touch, and that's nice. So thank you for listening, and I will see you next week.